How's it going, everyone? My name is Joel from Dissecting DIY. Today we're going to go over the Dr. Energy Saver Silverglo product line, which is a 4-inch piece of R20 foam blocking double-sided radiant barrier. Just so you can get a better look, you can see it all behind me. And I just want to go over this product. Now, there's a lot of insulation companies out there that are going to claim to be able to give you energy efficiency. And I wanted to make sure that I got the best bang for buck. And just all the companies that I had out doing bids, you should get a minimum of 3 bids. I went as many as 6. All of them were a little bit cheaper, but not by much. And a lot of them just wanted to come in and blow in fiberglass. Now, I use this space for storage, and that wasn't a good solution for me. So I did ask them about taking up the deck plating, sealing the bypasses. And what a bypass is simply a crack, not even a crack, it's just part of the construction where sheetrock meets stud. It isn't sealed. No one ever seals the top where the sheetrock is meeting the attic or the top of the wall. And it's just a way that any air that has gotten into the wall cavities can directly basically head to this attic space, and it bypasses any type of thermal bridging, any type of cooling action that would have a wall or a sealed space would have stopped. That being said, they didn't know what any of that was, and they didn't even know what a bypass was. And when I explained it to them, they're like, "Oh yeah, we can seal those." So I just kind of didn't, as a consumer, feel like they were up to date on all the energy saving methods, and it just kind of seemed like I was going to be spending money to spend money. Now, I was correct in my research, because when you have fiberglass and you just blow it in, and you haven't done anything to seal the bypasses, fiberglass is an excellent insulator. It is really great. But if you haven't done anything to stop airflow, you're going to be wasting energy, and that's true for cellulose too. Cellulose is a little bit denser, but when it's initially applied, it's nice and fluffy, and it hasn't had a chance. Over time, it's going to compact, and as it does that, it is going to seal up to a degree. But of course, anytime it's disturbed again, if you have to do any electrical, you're doing anything in the attic that requires you to disturb it, that section is going to get nice and fluffy again. It's going to allow air leakage again. The other problem was that I had to rip all the decking up. I have to take all this insulation out. Then I have to, they would have had to foam. It would have been very messy. And it wasn't that when Dr. Energy Saver came out that they didn't have to do anything that required a mess. It was a little messy, but not as messy as it would have been, and it probably would have taken double the time that it took for them to do this install. So Dr. Energy Saver came out, and they said they could do the same thing. They would apply the Silverglo to the floor. They would seal the bypasses. They would add additional insulation to the floor if needed, and then on top of this product they would put the floor decking back down. They said this would keep the attic space separate from the home, or to make sure that the home was nice and sealed off from any type of heat loss through the attic, which was ideal. The problem is you need to consider what you're going to be doing in the future. We use this area for storage, and when you use something for storage, you want it to be as a conditioned space as possible. And that's where we started talking about either doing a spray foam directly to the rafter, or doing the Silverglo product line. Now, the Silverglo product line allows for airflow. There are a lot of people that don't like spray foam because they don't believe that their roof is going to last as long. There's different opinions on it. Some people actually put those Pink Panther vents, those little pink vents that attached to underneath the sheathing to allow venting from the soffit to the ridge, and then they'll put the spray foam up. I don't think that Dr. Energy Saver did that. They were going to do a direct application, and I'm old school. I definitely like that research of venting my roof, making sure it stays cool, because we did just put a new roof on. And now let's get into making sure that you do everything you need to get this space ready for installation. You need to inspect your roof rafters for any cracks. You need to make sure that your collar ties, that you have as many as you need. Every other, there should be a collar tie. And all a collar tie is it's a piece of wood, as you can see, all the way down. That goes in and it kind of holds that, it kind of creates an A to the roof. And the reason for that is any time that there's any weight on the roof, whether it's shingles or whether it's snow, your roof is constantly trying to flatten out. You do have, there's obviously a lot of things involved in a roof. The bird's mouth where it sits on the double plate, the ridge that it comes up and presses against. But a roof is always trying to push down anytime it has weight on it. And collar ties help stabilize that. And they help make the roof more rigid. So you want to make sure that you have plenty of those, especially if you live in an area where you get a lot of snow. I live in New Hampshire, we get a lot of snow. Once that's all done, you need to do any bracing. You need to kind of think ahead. And the reason for that is if there ever is a problem with this roof, you're gonna have to tear this stuff back out, and it's not gonna be fun. And you might as well just make sure that everything's done right beforehand, so down the road you have less problems. Now let's say I did spring a leak in my roof. How, now that it is finished, am I gonna find a problem? Well, because this is a foam board, it's essentially waterproof. Because it's been sealed along all these edges, the water's not gonna find its way back in very easily. Maybe through one of these pieces, but again, it's not gonna find its way very easily. So if you are having problems with your roof, you suspect problems, look at these bolts area, these right here, and look for any dripping on the floor. If there is, you're gonna have to remove it. You can have them back out and they'll piece the section in, or you can do it yourself. Ask them to leave some extra. All this is foam. You get the straw, you make sure that it's sealed to make sure that it's air sealed. But you want to make sure that your attic space and the roof are addressed. We had a new roof put on right before this, and we watched it. We had some rain and snow to make sure. We have an area by the chimney that's been a problem area, and we had to have the lead reflashed a couple times, even though it had been re-roofed, as strange as that sounds. This application air seals the attic from top to bottom, all the way down to the double plate. So they go down with the foam board at a double plate, they cut it, and then a foam board comes down and sits on that double plate. They foam all around it. They make sure everything is airtight. They also make sure that all the way out to the wall cavity that this sits, that the wall cavity is insulated, and then right above it we'll have that Silverglo product that's been cut to allow for airflow through your soffit. I did have a lot of times when I have a professional install done, I recommend knowing how the product is installed. And the reason for that is you can spot problems with an install. If you know how the product is installed, you can go up after the work is performed and you can inspect the work like a manager would. Be reasonable. If it's something small, basically if they forgot like something here, give them a call, see if they'll come out and see if the manager will come out. You're not going to get anyone in trouble. Just say, I have some concerns. They'll send someone out. That happened to me. And they came out, they drilled holes, they stuck a camera down, and they found that a couple of the soffits were blocked, and they sought to fix them. And they did. They were amazing. Any of the issues that I had come up, I called them, I think, 3 times just for some concerns, and the manager came out to make sure that there was a quality install. Sales process. The sales process was great. We did a CFM test where they depressurized the home. They go around with the heat camera and dust. They actually found some issues with some brand new windows I bought. And we were able to make sure that the home didn't need anything anywhere else. So that being said, the sales process was very straightforward. There wasn't any gimmicks. There wasn't any of this like, we'll take $10,000 off. There wasn't any of this upsell. It was like, this is the amount the product costs. If you feel like it is worth it, we can go ahead and proceed. If you don't, there wasn't any pressure at all. And, they didn't come at me with all these gimmicks. And that's what I liked. I've dealt with a lot of salespeople before where they come out to the home and for some reason they're able to knock an absorbent amount of money off. And that is a red flag. Anytime that you are buying a product, whether it's Empire Today, a window company, and they come out and they say that they can knock all this money off, typically that product is overpriced. Typically you're paying for that guy's commission, and the product is probably overpriced by as much as 50 to 75%. You can probably get it done for a lot cheaper, and this is why I always recommend bids. Get at least a minimum of 3 bids from other companies and make sure that they're up to your standard. Outside of that, getting back to the Silverglo and Dr. Energy Saver product line, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend doing some type of air sealing in the attic to save energy by moving the conditioned space up to the rafters. I am able to keep things nice and cool in the summer and nice and warm in the winter. I don't have to worry about insulation. I actually have to pull some insulation out because this is now conditioned space and it needs to be conditioned. The reason that I had to actually go this route, or to insulate in the first place, was because I have 2x6 construction. And 2x6 construction is fine. It's a 1983 home. But the ceiling joists aren't as thick to accommodate insulation. So because of that, the insulation up here was already poor, it was thin. I was heating the home, and once that heat got up here, I was getting a cooling action to the heat, obviously. And because some of the soffits were blocked, it wasn't allowed to vent properly. So what happens to hot air when it cools rapidly? The moisture rate goes up 100%. And that was the problem I was having, is I had frost everywhere. I had addressed the usual culprits, which was a shower vent. I moved the showers from venting out the soffit. So if you vent out the soffit, it'll suck that moisture right back up, because that's what it is. It's trying to get fresh air, and it's supposed to go right out the ridge. And once that I addressed those issues, I was still, a couple of winters this was happening, and I realized that my insulation was poor. And like I said, I could have added to the decking, but this was the ideal situation. I'm properly vented. This will last a lifetime, and I cannot recommend it enough. Dr. Energy Saver, out of all the insulation companies that I dealt with, they have a multitude of products, multiple ways to address the same situation of having to insulate your home, and this was by far the best choice for me. I hope down the line, if you choose an energy efficient product or to make your home energy efficient, that you do give Dr. Energy Saver a look. And they are a little bit expensive. What's the saying? A good insulation job isn't cheap, and a bad insulation job isn't good, or a cheap insulation job isn't good. So they are a little bit more pricey. This cost me about $7,000 to do this entire attic space. They were in here for about 3 days, and it was during one of the hot times. So you got to understand, when these guys come in, they're dealing with a space that none of us want to deal with. The only drawbacks that I saw, and I'll show you right here, this is just nitpicking, but you see that this is the light here. So here they just kind of foamed around it. Anyone that's an electrician knows that this isn't ideal. So down the road, the only thing that I can recommend to this company is they make improvements here. Maybe they add a bucket light. Maybe they, there's those little air sealed buckets that you can get, and paying a little bit more attention to these areas to make sure that something like this remains serviceable would be my only recommendation. But other than that, they did a great job. It does look a little messy. It didn't originally look like this. I just asked them to come out because I noticed some areas hadn't been sealed, and they came out and they said, you know what, we're going to come out. We're going to make sure that those areas are nice and sealed up, and you'll have nothing to worry about. And they did. And so that's me just asking them to come back out. It actually looked a lot neater before, but there was like 1 or 2 spots, and they said, we'll do the whole thing. So I like that. They made sure I was happy. And I think if you go with them, again, still get your 3 to 6 bids, that you'll be happy too. I'm Joel from Dissecting DIY. I am reviewing a professional install by Dr. Energy Saver, and you have a good day.